Kinda, it's close. It's kind of like questions and answers about talking about God. And actually, the ones who have all the questions and answers are actually Shweta, Summer, and Brajesh. So they were very interested to know some questions. They've been meaning to ask some questions. And they asked really nice questions, especially Summer. You guys had nice questions too, but Summer's were really, really nice questions. So I have some answers if that's okay. Um, I just have to look at my notes here. All right. All right. So we had the first question. Summer had two really good questions, but I'm gonna ask your first question is so good. I want it to be the main focus of the class. Okay. And he asked, "What's the meaning of life?" And that's like, wow, that's an easy question. I got that right in my back pocket for you. So, no, that was luckily I knew where to find it. And I don't know if you guys got a chance to read the chapters that I told you. If not, don't worry about it. I'm going to give you a summary of the answer anyway. Um, so, and then he asked a second question, which I'm going to start the class with today. Um, when he asked, why is it, I'm correct, it's on my phone, but now the phone is recording. Why am I scared for my loved ones to die? Is that correct? So, okay. And you're not the only one who had that problem. You ever heard of a warrior named Arjuna? He's the main character of the Bhagavad Gita other than Krishna.
I know him.
Oh, you know him now. Okay, good. Well, yes, he also was scared that his relatives were going to die. And actually, Krishna, the first things that Krishna says, and he pacifies that exact thing. So it's found in chapter 2. But before I get into this, um, if you guys have a Bhagavad Gita with you, we have some Bhagavad Gitas. Maybe we can pass out some Bhagavad Gitas to those who want them. But we're going to go and chant the some pranam mantras or some offering respects to the Guru. So I'm trying to get their mercy. I'm not trying to speak on my own, own strength in my own mind here. I'm trying to just follow in the footsteps of the teachers. So, without further ado, maybe we can all chant together if you want. It's on page 1 of the Bhagavad Gita, these prayers. What? Yeah, if you could use the phone, but I don't know the links. Yeah, database, that's fine, that works too. Database Bhagavad Gita. We've got Bhagavad Gita here. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuru Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamaya Vidati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunam Panditam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Samanutam Harijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Cha Hey Krishna Karana Sindhu Dinabandho Jagarbate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namaste Takta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhani Sute Devi Pranamami Devi Priye Panchakalpa Turvishcha Kripasindhu Devacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Now the Mahamantra all together. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And again, Srila Prabhupada Pranamancha. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Krishnaya Murte Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Varavani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashtya Deshatarine. Jai. All right. So hopefully the great wisdom teachers in our line have seen us favorably, and whatever is spoken here can be on fact and have scriptural reference, and it's not just my own mental concoctions. So it's very important. So we are going to talk about Bhagavad Gita. I have some notes that I'll need. But I had also a little Bhagavad Gita here with me. So Samer, you asked, well, I don't want my relatives to die, or why? What's the exact question? What is on your mind?
I'm scared.
You're scared. That's very natural. I'm also scared. But Krishna, he has an answer for this that is very hopeful. So if you go to chapter 2, well, first of all, he's a little tough with Arjuna in the beginning. And then he gets a little softer and sweeter. But he's a little tough with him in the beginning. So, Krishna says this in Bhagavad Gita. Sorry, I'm trying to flip through these paper thin. Chapter 2, text 11. Come on in. We're reading Bhagavad Gita. All right. So Krishna said this exact thing. And actually right before this, you guys did something very smart. You wanted to know questions. And actually Arjuna did the same thing. In chapter verse 7, if you want to go a few verses back to verse 7, Arjuna actually said, Kripanya dosho pahata swabhava prichchami tvam dharma samuda cheta yachtreya shanishtitam bruhitan me shishyasteham shadhimam tvam prapanam. And he said, now I am confused about my duty and have lost all composure because of weakness. In this condition I am asking you to tell me clearly what is best for me. Now I am your disciple and a soul surrendered unto you. Please instruct me. This is very wise. Because unless we take this position in our life, which is a very humble position, and we recognize that we need instructions, if we just go about, I was giving the analogy before, if we just let the toddlers or the young kids out and just say, yeah, you go figure it out by yourself. You'll figure it out. Taxes, all the stuff. You'll get it. You'll do great. Maybe, after the bumps and bruises of the world hit them very hard, maybe they'll figure some things out. But if they had their parents guiding them and instructing them all along, they can make so much more advancement, so much more rapidly and quickly. So listen to your parents. They're trying to help you in so many ways. So they wanted to know some answers. And if they were just going to approach me for answers, they would be in trouble because I don't really have that many answers. But the good news is they wanted to hear about the answers that the Shastras have. And there's so many answers that the Shastras give. And there's so many teachers who helped me to understand and decipher the Shastras or the scriptures. So this is what Krishna said. If you're scared about your relatives, passing from this world, there's good news. I'll tell you. Well, Krishna will tell you. He says, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Ashochan Anvashochastvam Pragyavadams Chabashase Gatasuna Gatasumscha Nanushochanti Pandita. Remember, he's talking to a warrior here. They're in the middle of a battlefield. So he's a little rough with him because they're about to, undergo a war. And he says, while speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor the dead. So if you don't want to lament, or if you don't want to be sad or scared about anyone you love dying, the secret here is to become wise. If we can become wise, then we wouldn't lament for the living nor the dead. So that's okay. I wasn't very wise. At your age, I was not wise at all. Actually, at Michael's age, I wasn't very wise, nor at Tanmai's age. And even now, at this point in my life, I'm still not very wise. I'm trying to figure out how to be wise. Um, but things like this help. He said, never, I'm not going to read the Sanskrit, it will take me all day. But he said, never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. So what he's saying there is that actually you're eternal. And actually the person you're scared for dying, actually the death that you're experiencing, they're not going to really, what we think about as death is they disappear, they're gone. But that's not true. They're always going to exist. They're just going to go to a new type of destination. And then he goes on to say a bit more. As the embodied soul continually passes in this body from boyhood, like you, to youth, to old age, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. The self-realized soul is not bewildered by such a change. So there's now for the Western paradigm, this can be like, whoa. Reincarnation? Do you believe in reincarnation, Summer?
I don't think he knows what that is.
Do you believe when that's... Thank you, Soham. So okay, we'll explain. What reincarnation is when someone dies, you go into a new life. Do you believe that? Good, because that's what Krishna believes, and that's what Krishna tells too. There's a lot of scientific evidence for this as well. There's a really nice, I won't go into all of it, but there's a really nice special that 60 Minutes once did called Airplane Boy. If you watch it, it gives a lot of really wonderful evidence about somebody who clearly had past life experiences and was able to make connections as a young boy. And actually, there's another scientist out of University of Virginia who's studying thousands of these cases, and he has an amazing case studies on it. And in the East, this is just like common knowledge. Everyone knows and believes in reincarnation. But, in the West, this was like news to us, But so anyway, it helps to know that if people die in your life, that they actually, Krishna says, never have they ever not existed. No one has never not existed, nor will anyone ever cease to be, meaning everyone will always keep on existing. So that might help if, say, have you had a death in your family?
In past, yes, in last 1 year, yes.
Yes. Do you mind sharing?
Yeah, Bridget's grandmother.
Brajesh's grandmother. So it's helpful to know that, and that would be great grandma to you, great grandmother, right? I don't know what language you guys use for that, but the great grandmother will she's still existing somewhere else. Actually, she's probably in a much better situation. Just like you have a shirt. Is that the first shirt you've ever owned?
No.
What happened to your old shirts?
Got too small.
It got too small. It didn't work out anymore. So you got a new shirt. So sometimes your body gets old and it doesn't work out anymore. So you just get a new body. No problem. Do you want to still wear any? Did you ever rip a shirt, or you have a piece of clothing that doesn't work very well anymore? I don't know. That's okay. So every once in a while you wear out a shirt, it gets too small, you get some holes in it, something like that happens. And so you just, you know what? I can't wear this anymore. I'll get a new shirt. The soul is doing that with the body. We have a body, it works out for some time, 80 years, 100 years, maybe 110, and then that's about it. That's all the body's good for. And then you get a new body. So it's not as, I hope that's helpful. I know very much in the moment, in the experience, we have these relationships. They're so nice, they're so sweet. And actually, you're supposed to mourn when we lose our relatives. It's good, actually, because there is a certain part that we will miss, a certain level of relationship that's there. But the great hope is that they're not gone. And I'm not the only one saying that. Krishna's not the only one saying that. All the great spiritual traditions also believe in a life after. And this one very nicely believes in a life before life. So anyway, there's a lot of hope, and Krishna ultimately he gets into it with Arjuna. It's a part of life. As soon as one is born, at some point they'll grow, they'll get bigger, and they'll do so many things in this world, and then eventually they'll get old, and then everyone also dies too. That's a part of life. But the good news is that you've done this before many, many times. You'll do it again probably sometimes. And with the mastering the great spiritual traditions, actually you don't have to do this anymore. This whole process of death can be overcome altogether. But it's a bit of a science and it's a bit of a process, which is one of the processes we're trying to share. But yes, don't worry. Whoever you are scared for or sad for, they're in good hands. And actually, it's said that one who masters the Bhakti Yoga process, 21 generations of his relatives above and below get completely liberated, and they go to like a heavenly type of place. So all it takes is you to be so nice as a pure devotee that you can, all of your relatives, 21 generations, that's so many. That's like 20 more generations than Brajesh's grandmother, or maybe 15 or 18, whatever the number is, will be completely in a beautiful place. Just because you and the Supreme Lord you got in a good place with him. So there's some hope that's not coming from me, that's coming from the teachings of Nrsimha to Prahlad. So does that help with that question?
Yeah.
Yes. So I hope that's helpful, and I hope Mom can help remind you when it's time, and Brajesh can also help remind you that it's so that was one very nice question.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome, and thank you guys for hosting us. Now, the next question I'll do is Shweta, because Shweta wanted to know about the relevance of dreams. Well, I dreamt this last night. There was a black dragon in my window, and he was speaking to me, and this is actually a dream I had not that long ago. and he was speaking to me in like a deep, like aggressive undertones, and I was like really not liking this being. And then I woke up and I was like, wow, thank God that's not real. That's about the extent of dreams. There's a lot mentioned about dreams in the Bhagavatam, not so much in the Bhagavad Gita. Basically, what are dreams? There's 3 states of life that are always happening. There's deep sleep, there's the dreaming state, and it's not just when you're sleeping, we're always dreaming. Whenever we're fantasizing about that next new thing that we want, that's dreaming. We're having like dreams all the time. We have dreams for our kids, dreams for our family, dreams for our career, dreams for this, that, and the other thing. But ultimately, then there's the wakeful state, where there's the sober reality of just actually doing one's practical activities. They correlate with the modes of nature, if you're familiar with the gunas. Dreaming would be like correlating with rajas, more so, because it actually, what's it from is your desires. So if you have many desires, you'll have many dreams. If your desires are lessened, the dreams will be lessened. Now that being said, most of the time it's made, all kinds of comparisons are made in the Bhagavatam. Maybe I can read a few of them. That this world is like a dreaming state, but really the implication is that it's not real. It's kind of like a fantasy. But that being said, there are many instances where, I can read exactly what Srila Prabhupada wrote. That there's a dreaming state in which understanding comes from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, meaning that the Lord can also come in your dreams and give you revelation. So the litmus test is usually, I've heard from devotees, is that if there's a devotee, uh, one's guru, one's teacher, or a mentor, a spiritual mentor, or the Lord Himself in one's dream, this is an impetus for spiritual revelation, that which is reminding you of the spiritual path. But if it's anything else, which is, we have so many dreams, it's actually the part of the, what you'd call Maya, or the illusory thing we're dealing with, all our subconscious desires. In the day, we're dreaming about going here, there, and the other, and then dreaming doesn't stop. The body has to poop out for the day. It's like, I can't handle anymore, so it sleeps, but still the mind is very active in the dreaming state. Well, I want to do this, and I'm going here, and I'm here, and now I'm flying through space, and now I'm doing this, that, and the other thing. So ultimately, it has to do with your past impressions, that what you've dealt with in the past, what the mind has desired in the past, and also what the mind desires now and into the future. And sometimes it can combine things. It's very elaborate and intricate. But one of the benedictions I could say in the Bhagavatam that Shukadeva Goswami, I forget which pastime, but he gives a benediction that one will no longer dream, meaning one will no longer be in the desiring state, because that's where the dreams are stemming from, wanting to have different experiences. So as far as dreams go, we shouldn't put so much emphasis, practically, now what to do with our dreams, right? Practically, what do we do with them? Putting so much emphasis on them isn't recommended. But that being said, and I personally have experienced this a few times, where spiritual mentors have come to me in my dreams and illuminated something that I should have been focusing on. So when something spiritual comes into the dreams, this is actually good. And you could say this is an intervention of the Lord. So like that.
So we can get guidance or grace.
Absolutely, we can get guidance or grace through dreams, but it's actually, not only we can, it's almost inevitable that we will. If you look through, like, say, the Chaitanya Charitamrita, one of the great sage, Soham, I'm coming to you, don't worry. The great sage, Krishnadas Kaviraj, who actually wrote the piece, the way it started was that there was an altercation at his family's home, and his own brother had insulted a devotee of Nityananda Prabhu. Nityananda was like a great avatar who was actually helped start the Hare Krishna movement, and he actually, his devotee was insulted by his brother. So he was so disgusted that his own family member did that he wanted to leave, and he didn't want to even go. And what ended up happening is, in a dream, Nityananda Prabhu came to him and he said, what you're looking for is in Vrindavan. And actually, that was the impetus for him to go off to Vrindavan, leave that situation behind. And he actually became a renowned sage that we still study his scriptures and works many years later. And so this has happened to not just one acharya. This has happened almost to every great spiritual personality, is that the Lord will utilize, because we can't stop desiring, actually. We think, let me just stop desiring. That's a desire in itself. I want to stop desiring. It's actually impossible. But in Krishna consciousness, what we try to do is, instead of, we do want to detach from material things. We do want to detach from things that are definitely going to cause us pain and suffering. And the things of this world absolutely do that. It's inevitable. If you attach to anything that's temporary, as soon as it's lost, you will feel misery. Just like a relative or anything like this. But what we can attach, it's easy to detach from things when you have something better to attach to. So some people are very attached to their home. But then all of a sudden they see a new home up on the market. And they say, oh, this home is very nice. Oh, what a deal. I'm going to get this home. Next thing you know, the other home, you don't care so much about it. And everything is like that. I'm very attached to this clothing article. things like this. And at one point, I was very attached to this pair of pants, And if anyone would tell me, yeah, give me, can I have your pair of pants? I'd be like, heck no. But over time, I got other pair of pants and things like that. And I was like, you know what? I have these extra pair of pants. Michael, it would be better if Michael didn't come in sweatpants. Let's bring him in nice pants. He actually put I didn't put any dress code, Michael. Normally Michael's like me, he's wearing sheets all the time. But he wanted to look spiffy today. So, but yeah, so once you have something else to attach to, you can detach much easier. So when you attach to spiritual things, then the material things will detach. And same with dreams. When you're attached to spiritual things in your life and your desires are spiritual, even your dreams will become spiritualized, and they'll be actually sources of nourishment and grace for you, rather than what they currently are for everyone, is that ways to try and project our desires at the astral level or the subtle level of the realm of the mind and thought. So yes, we can absolutely receive grace through our dreams. But again, we don't want to get like too mental about it and be like, oh my God, the black dragon in the dream, I actually saw that as an impetus to like really absorb yourself in your spiritual sadhana. You don't want to deal with that. But at the same time, I'm not getting too where's the black dragon? Is he in this window? Is he in there? And who knows, maybe I should. But yeah, is that helpful?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. All right. Now. Oh, Soham. My goodness. What is your question?
Dreams were like experiences you want, but what about nightmares? We don't want those.
They're not necessarily experiences that you want. They're experiences that you are also, as you said, nightmares, things you don't want. Did you ever experience you worried about something and you worried and you worried and worried and then it ended up happening? And it's maybe because some could say you maybe manifested that. So a lot of times dreams have to do with our worries and our anxieties too. Oftentimes that's what they're about, our anxieties and our worries. Yeah, our fears. And they play out mentally. Just like when you're thinking about something that you want to do, but you're thinking about in your mind, you have all kinds of like dreams actually. Oh my God, this could happen, or you play out in your mind. But then it turns out how it turns out. Like, I don't know, these weird people from Syracuse are coming today. Who knows what they'll say, what they'll do. They're going to make us just sit the whole time, who knows. I don't know what the kids are thinking. But it might turn out completely different from that. And often it does. Our dreams are not necessarily reality. Oftentimes we're like, thank God that was a dream. Whatever you were worrying or anxiety ridden in the dream, you woke up and you're like, phew, I am really glad that was a dream. So
when those kind of dream comes true, that's when all the anxiety and fear gets doubled. Like,
yes.
I did have a dream about my dad passing away, and he did pass away in 6 months of time.
Yes.
So how do we deal with that? Like, again, same thing, like not putting too much emphasis. I didn't. When it happened, I was like, oh, thank God it was a
you could
dream.
see it as maybe there's there may be a sign, there's an implication, maybe I'm sure you did check on your dad, and give him extra care and love at that time. But ultimately, we also have to it's a dream. There's so many things that have happened in the dream, right? And that we're just like, oh. So if we put too much emphasis, but like as Shweta said, you can absolutely get spiritual grace and connection in one's dreams. So this is not, it's not something to just be ignored. It's all just silly, but at the same time, it's not something that like I gotta hold on to every ounce of that dream. Where's my dream journal? Like, because
Just be extra careful about if you dream like that. Like,
Yeah, or ultimately, if you're completely spiritually immersed, it'll it won't so much matter. You know, even your say your father passing, you can see it in a spiritual light. It can even be a wholesome experience, even though it's painful naturally at the same time. But and you could at the same you could prepare. Oh, I think my father could be passing, and you could act appropriately, whatever that may be. You know, whether to be there for them or to try and comfort them or spiritually prepare them for that thing. So like that. But yeah, I don't think we have to play defense against our dreams so much.
Once I had a dream that I caught the blue crayfish, and then in the summertime I did catch one.
Wow.
I saw it.
Wow.
I saw it.
So your dreams have come true. So very, very nice. Is this in real life you caught the blue crayfish? Oh, okay, very nice. So, like not in a video game. This is like you went fishing.
No, I just looked under a rock and I found one, so I just grabbed it.
Oh, very good.
They're like a little like freshwater lobsters.
Very good. Actually, they say that one who takes to this bhakti yoga process, all of their desires get fulfilled. So anything else that you desire, if you desire it, and you practice, you do some chanting, and you have some love for God, he'll fulfill all of your desires.
I also saw pink crawfish with it.
Wow, very nice. So, well, very good. You can have a whole rainbow of crawfish. Just chant this Maha Mantra and then look for everything that you're looking for, and you'll find a lot of wonderful things. So that's very good. Now I want to get to Brajesh's. Oh, but where's Brajesh? He should be. Okay. Okay, very nice. So now we have Brajesh's question. So Brajesh's question, he asked how to control the mind. And so in order to control the mind, we should also come to the conclusion, well, why to control the mind? What's wrong with my mind? Someone tell me something that might be wrong with the mind.
Because it runs in all 50 directions and wants all 50 things.
Yes. And when that happens, what kind of experience does one have?
Anxiety.
Anxieties, depression, different allotments of miseries and things like this. Okay, so this is very good. So now, the beginning to the answer of Brajesh's question is found in Bhagavad Gita. We have Bhagavad Gita's here. Chapter 6, text 5. Well, first of all, it talks about why Brajesh's question is very important. And the verse is Udaret atmanatmanam natmanamavasadayet atmaiva hyatmano bandhur atmaiva ripuratmanaha. A man must elevate, Krishna speaking, a man must elevate himself by his own mind, not degrade himself. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul and his enemy as well. So, did you ever see the cartoon thing? You have the angel on the one shoulder and you have the devil on the other shoulder. Yes, right? That's relatable. That's your mind. Your mind can elevate you or your mind can degrade you. A lot of people in the West are kind of a toxic spiritual thing. It's just follow your heart. What they're really saying is follow your mind. Whatever your mind wants, just do it. Actually, there's another group. This is their credo. They're really big in the music industry. They're the Satanists. I don't know. They're all getting in trouble now. Jay-Z and Kanye and all them. They're with the P. Diddy stuff. I don't know if you guys are hip to the pop culture stuff. But anyway, they're all getting in a lot of trouble. But their whole thing is do what thou wilt. It's like a spin-off of the Christian thou will shall be done. Just do whatever you want. Follow your heart. Yeah, no problem. But there's consequences. The mind could either do elevating activities or good things, or the mind can do degrading activities or bad things. As Jesus said, you reap what you sow. So a good tree bears good fruit. A bad tree will bear bad fruit. So if you use your mind in a degrading way, it's going to become your worst enemy. If you use your mind in a wholesome, elevated way, it'll become your best friend. So, it's very important, the question you ask, because we need to elevate our mind. So we actually are dealing with a friend here, and we're not dealing with the devil on our shoulder, always pulling us down into, things that ultimately aren't wholesome, can never give us happiness, and only cause misery. That's the consequences. Karma is absolute, meaning every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Well, that's a law of physics. But every action has its reaction. There's a consequence to every action that one does. Yes, Summer?
Karma happens to me almost all the time.
Yes, not almost, all the time. It's always happening to you. But we measure karma when we get like it seems like a bad reaction. But maybe that's because we do a lot of bad things. But when you're good, you do a lot of good things, you get a lot of good karma too. You actually already have a lot of good karma. You wouldn't be born to Shweta and Brajesh, and you wouldn't have such a nice community of people here. You wouldn't be a little boy speaking about such wholesome things, asking such nice things. When I was a little boy, I just wanted to play video games all the time. And it took me a while to find good and wholesome things in my life. Is that what he wants to do too? It's natural. Boys want to play games. One day he'll realize that spending time in the Bhagavad Gita will be better than spending time in the video system. But it took me 23 years to learn that. No, wait, how many years does it? Maybe 25 or 26? 28. I'm only 32. So, only 32. So, you have some time, maybe. I'd like to think you have some time. The next verse says, "For him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. For one who has failed to do so, his very mind will be the greatest enemy." This is Bhagavad Gita, beginning of chapter 6. These are 5, 6, and 7 is, "For one who has conquered the mind, the super soul is already reached," or the supreme consciousness within you. There's a way to connect to God even within oneself. It's called the Chaitya Guru, the inner teacher from the inner illuminator from within. So if you actually conquer the mind, you can always connect to that facet of the Lord and ourselves even. And he has attained tranquility. He'll be completely peaceful, meaning no more anxieties, no more depression, all these things. That sounds nice, right? Oh, no anxiety, no depression, things like this. You have to conquer the mind to achieve like this. So we'll see. To such a man or woman, happiness and distress, heat and cold, honor and dishonor are all the same. You're not, okay, it's cold out, no problem. It's hot out, no problem. Oh, my body is happy with this situation, no problem. Oh, my body is distressed, no problem. This is called samadarshana, equal vision. You're able to always be fixed. Honor, dishonor, oh, they're honoring me, they like me here, oh, they don't like me here? Oh my goodness. It doesn't matter actually. This is for what the conquered mind can do. And so he talks about the path of yoga, how to conquer the mind. And the whole 6th chapter is about this. Now we're going to go to the end of the 6th chapter, because this is actually the answer to Brajesh's question. How to do it though? There's so many... the whole 6th chapter will give you kind of a step-by-step process on how to conquer the mind, the yogic process, the meditative process. And what ends up happening at the end is Arjuna has a really profound realization. And I'll read it here. His profound realization is I can't do this. I'm an ordinary worldly man. So what he says, I'll read it out exactly. He said, Arjuna Vacha, this is text 33 of the 6th chapter. Yoyam yogastvaya prokta samyena madhusudana etasyaham na pashyami chanchalatvat sthitim sthiram. Arjuna said, O Madhusudan, the system of yoga which you have summarized appears impractical and unendurable to me, for the mind is restless and steady. He told him how to meditate, how to sit upright, and fully concentrate the mind and overcome all of the tendencies and what to do. But he's saying, I can't do that. He says, for the mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, which means stubborn and very strong. O Krishna, to subdue it seems to me more difficult than controlling the wind. Actually, Arjuna was a very special warrior. He actually was able to control the air elements to some degree. He said, but the mind is more difficult to control. But the wind, who here feels like they can go bottle up the wind or control the wind? No, you got to work with the wind. So what to do? Krishna says this. This is the answer to your question. Text 35. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Asamshayam Mahabaho Manodurni Graham Chalam Abhyasena tu Konteya Vairagena cha Grihyate. Okay, so the two answers were Abhyasan and Vairagya. So he said, the Blessed Lord said, O mighty armed son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind. God is speaking and saying, oh, it's very difficult. So if he thinks it's difficult, it must be very difficult. But it is possible by these two things, constant practice and by detachment. And now we were talking about detachment. How do you detach from something? Very easily. You have a better attachment. Okay. Now we're not in the process of just trying to detach from everything. It's impossible. Like it's called nirvishesha, or the Buddhist philosophy would try to achieve nirvana. But it's practically impossible to just detach from everything. And actually it provides a state that's not nearly as wonderful as having a really wonderful attachment. But you have to attach to the right thing. The things we're used to attaching in this world are all temporary. So inevitably they all change and get destroyed. Your position at work, your family, your love interest, this, that, and the other, your finances, all of it fluctuates up, down, and lost eventually. But if we attach to that which is eternal, one, to who we are, the process of discovering ourselves, which is like kind of the jnana yoga practice, and then ultimately it leads to the bhakti yoga practice. And Krishna is going to tell the foreshore solution for you, and that is, and it's also, he concludes the Bhagavad Gita with it as well. The foreshore solution for you. It's ultimately going to attach to him, because that's his eternal platform. And that will help you do the vairagya. You'll detach from all material things if you're fully attached to the Lord. That's the nature of it. It's easy, actually. But you would have to actually be attached. And so that's a process. So he says what? Abhyasan. It's a practice. And not just, I'll do it, once, maybe even as much, I'll do it once a day for 5 minutes. Maybe 10. It's constant practice. Now, that's why this Maha Mantra and Kirtan is the number one emphasis, because you can take Kirtan even at work. Even you're busy, I'm sure, you're maintaining the family, this house, everything is there. But you can always, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. You could always think of God, whatever you're doing. And that's actually what Krishna, he says. Well, I'll read what he finishes the chapter. For one whose mind is unbridled or uncontrolled, self-realization is difficult work. But he whose mind is controlled and who strives by the right means is assured of success. That is my opinion. So these are the right means. Develop practices. We have some practices we could share with you. The mantra meditation. We do japa every day. Some of us more than others. But we whatever time we can, we try and immerse our mind in the mantra. That's what a mantra is. It's a means to control the mind. So we chant the names of God and try to bring our attention back to God. Or maybe we make a commitment. Prabhupada, who brought this system to the West, he recommended that everyone, to really make a serious commitment, spend about minimum 2 to 3 hours daily trying to do that. trying to bring one's consciousness to God. And that would be like 16 rounds of 108 chanting the Maha Mantra. That's one thing you could do. Another thing he recommended is read these books, understand the Vedic wisdom, understand the teachings of Bhagavad Gita. It's very nice. People love to say, "Well, I love God. I love God." You know, that's just like me saying, my friend, what is your name?
Vandan.
Vandan? Oh, it's nice. It means prayers. If I was like, I do love Vandan, but not, if I was addressing you, would you believe me if I just met you and I say, I love you so much? Would you think that was strange?
It is.
Yeah, it's definitely strange. Want to know why? Because we have no really relationship yet. So similarly, I love God, I love God, I love God. But if we don't do anything to actually try to understand God, how can we love God? In order to love somebody, you have to get to know them. That's what a relationship is. That's what bhakti is. Bhakti is love and devotion, but that's in relationship. There has to be a sambandha jnana. Sambandha is the relationship or the knowledge of the relationship. So if you don't make any effort in that relationship, there's no love. So there's no chance at it. So Prabhupada recommends it, take time to try to get to know God. And then you could do the practices of loving God, you know. Don't let it just become some mechanical thing where, okay, I gotta chant this mantra so many times. It'll actually come with some feeling after time. At the beginning, maybe some mechanical thing is helpful. It's like getting the training wheels on the bike. But at some point, you gotta take the training wheels off and go with it. So anyhow, these are some of the practices. Chanting on mala, kirtan, gathering. As much as you guys can do this and facilitate this, do this as much as possible. This is very good. To get in a place, chant kirtan with everyone, do some offerings. This is some archanam. Where's archana here? Archana's back there. Some archanam process, offering one's food. This is a form of archana. You know, not eating anything unless I first offer it to God. This is an act of devotion. This is a form of archana. Vandana. Start reciting prayers. The whole Bhagavad Gita and all of these prayers. Wait, we got some. Who else has got auspicious names here?
Daya.
Daya.
Compassion.
Compassion. Yes, have compassion for others. These are all very good. I'm not going to go through everyone's name. But anyhow, these are things that you could do, and really regularly do them. That's what constantly means, right? Make it a regular practice. Yeah, maybe it's not, maybe all the kids, summer, and everyone can't handle it if you're just off meditating all day. But you probably can find some time to meditate in the day. Maybe you find 30 minutes and you do some chanting, some reading, and then maybe Shweta and the kids at home, they can do some offering and prayers, and maybe you guys can gather for some things on the weekends, things like this, have sessions like this. So this is how you'll control the mind. Practice, and then you also similarly will have to detach from the material things that will stop you from practicing. So it might be, like in my family, it would be like something huge, like football. I gotta watch football for 9 hours on Sunday. Maybe watch football for 3 hours on Sunday and do something better with your life. I'm sorry if anyone likes football, but it's not the most wholesome activity. There's more wholesome things here in this world, at least. So anyhow, these are some things that you could do. And Krishna gives it, to conclude this, he says, he talks about to be a yogi, and he dispels his doubt, what happens to me if I do a little bit of spiritual practice, but I can't do it all. And he says, don't worry, you'll never be defeated. One who does good will never be overcome by evil. And even if you don't get it in this life, you'll get it in the next life. So don't worry if you can't go through all that in this life. You'll pick up exactly where you left off in the next life. And he says, a yogi is greater than the ascetic, greater than the empiricist, and greater than the fruitive worker. Therefore, Arjuna, in all circumstances be a yogi. And he concludes by saying, and of all yogis, he who always abides in me, with great faith, worshipping me in transcendental loving service, is most intimately united with me in yoga and is the highest of all. So this is the topmost yogi. So Krishna is saying that in order to control your mind, be a yogi. And the topmost yogi, he says at the end of Bhagavad Gita, Manmana bhava mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mami vaishyasi satyam te pratijane priyosi me. Always think of me. Become my devotee. Offer your worship, your homage unto me. And thus you will surely come to me. Because you are my very dear friend. This is because you're very dear to me. Everyone is very dear to God. Everyone is part and parcel of God. All you have to do is make the endeavor for God. And that makes one the topmost yogi. When I started doing yoga in the yoga studios, I never thought that my upbringing as a Christian was, wow, I was practicing yoga. But yes, I was practicing yoga. I had no idea. And this is actually as Krishna is saying, and Krishna is quite the authority. Krishna is saying that this is the topmost yoga. So immerse yourself in practices of God and detach. Become detached from worldly things. Things that make no, like for me it was like video games and stuff like that, sports, and they're still strong. The NFL playoffs are going on right now. And so I still want to check, well, what happened? I don't have time in my life to watch it, but I still find myself checking, well, let me see what happened. So it's gradual. Detachment is gradual. Any process is gradual, but over time, more and more and more. Instead of 6 hours on the football screen, you can do 3 hours or 4 hours. Instead of smoking 20 cigarettes a day, you could smoke 19 cigarettes a day, and so on, and gradually decrease like that. This is how you can control the mind. But it'll only work if you replace it with something positive. You attach to something better, like your spiritual practices. And now, the final question was Summers. He said, what is the meaning of life? Wow, what a tall order. So luckily, I don't have to try and figure that out on my own. And you're not the only one who asked that. The sages at Naimisharanya, at the very beginning of the Bhagavatam, first chapter, they requested Sutta Goswami. They said, Tatra Tandrasaya, Tatranjasa Yushman Bhavatavyad Vinishchitam Pumsam Ekantata Shreyas Tanasham Situmarhasi. He said, please, therefore, being blessed with many years, explain to us in an easily understandable way what you have ascertained to be the absolute and ultimate good for the people in general. So basically, what is the ultimate meaning and good for the people in general? And you're a people. We're all people, right? So what is the ultimate meaning of life for all of us? He answers this in the second chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's answered by Sutta Goswami in 4 verses. So I'll just read those verses quickly. Honestly, this could be a whole class in itself. Each one of these questions could really be a whole class in itself. But I know we don't have time for that. And I know I'm reading the room, and I know everyone's anxious. Like, when are we going to do kirtan? So I apologize, but I do want to do their questions justice. So, the answer is this. It's a very important verse. It's Savai Pum Sampado Dharmo Yato Bhaktir Ed Hokshaje Ahaitu Kyaprati Hata Yayatma Supersedati. And it says the supreme occupation or the supreme dharma, the paradharma, the ultimate dharma for all humanity is that by which men, also implied women, can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendent Lord, which means bhakti ad hokshaje, bhakti unto the transcendence. Such devotional service, this is the kicker, must be ahaituki and yapratihata. Ahaituki and apratihata means unmotivated and uninterrupted. Unmotivated means it's not like, well, all right, I'll worship God, but I want this thing, I want that thing, and I want this thing. These are my requests to you. like the purple crayfish and the blue crayfish and the orange crayfish. If we worship God for all the crayfish, all at the end of the day, all we might get is crayfish. But maybe there's something nothing wrong with crayfish, but maybe there's something much better in life you can get than crayfish. I'll give you a hint, there is. You have a wonderful smile. You actually look like your mom a lot too. I'm sure you look like your dad too. Anyway, the best thing we can do is render bhakti yoga or loving service. This is the meaning of life. We're connected to God, and just like if you take a fish and you take the fish out of water, the fish, where will it want to go?
In the water.
Back in the water, right? This is easy. These kids can answer this nicely. Now, but what if you say, no, but I have a nice 5-course feast for the fish. I've got cake and ice cream and all the things the fish might like. Will he be happy?
No.
Why wouldn't he be happy?
Because he's not in the water.
Yes, he needs water. So similarly, we're a spirit soul. And yet, we are looking for happiness in things that have nothing to do with the spirit soul, in temporary matter. And we're thinking that we can be happy. We're like fish out of the water. We're starving for spiritual life because we're spiritual. But yet, what do we do instead? Well, maybe Netflix, or maybe, the bar life, or, this thing, that thing, the other thing, all these material happinesses. But you're spiritual. You'll never be happy getting material things. You're like the fish getting ice cream and all these other things. There's no happiness in it. All it leads is to just really starving for what you're really looking for out of life. And that's the ultimate goal and meaning of life. Does that help, Summer? You had a question. Did you have another question? No? I saw you raise your hand.
The fish's oxygen comes from water. That's why it needs to be in the water.
Yes. So just like that, your nourishment also comes from spirit, because you're a spirit soul in a material body. So if we look only for our oxygen in a place that we can't get oxygen, like the material world, then ultimately we're like the fish, I used to watch SpongeBob, and there was this one episode where they got trapped. There was a squirrel who lived under the sea. You probably all know her, Sandy Cheeks. Anyhow, the squirrel, she invited them into her home, and she was trying to be nice, but the sea creatures couldn't exist nicely in her underwater land dome that she made. And they were all just dried up, and they're like, water. Yeah, you remember that episode. So anyhow, that's like us. We're all just saying pleasure. I want to be happy. You cannot be happy doing material things because you are not material. You can only be happy doing spiritual things because that's what you really are. And if we don't understand, this is back to your first question, if we don't understand that we're spiritual, then how could we ever know to even look for spiritual things? If you don't know where you start on your GPS, how can you know how to get there to your destination? You have to know your starting point. So unless you realize wholeheartedly and live by it that you're spiritual, no chance of being happy, no matter what you try. Unless, once you know you're spiritual, or this is called Sambandha Jnana in yoga, this means that you know your relationship with the Absolute, with God, then, now you have the GPS. You can do, it's called Abhideya. You have the process and you know the prayojan, the goal. I want to relate back with God in relationship. So let me get to know Him. So that's Bhagavad Gita. It's the beginning journey of getting to know God and beginning to know what to do. Just to read the last 3 verses. By doing this bhakti yoga unto the personality of Godhead, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. So that'll help you, Brajesh. By practicing bhakti, knowledge and detachment both come. That's the Lord's gift. Remember, unmotivated and uninterrupted. Not meaning I'm doing it simply out of love and even duty in the beginning. But not thinking I want a job, I want this, I want that, I want that. God is not your order supplier. That's why I was very turned away from my presentation of God I received when I was a kid. I thought God was just like some wish fulfilling genie, and I just say, oh well, if you want this, God will give you this, and that was, my parents tried their best, but that was the relationship with God that they kind of presented to me. But over time, even my dad who was the main force of God in my life, his relationship has very much changed, more towards this unmotivated and uninterrupted claim here as well, given by the Bhagavatam. And this one's a little heavy. The dharmas, or the occupational activities a man performs according to his position, are only so much useless labor if they do not provoke attraction for the message of the personality of Godhead. So ultimately, everything we do is useless if we don't somehow get attracted to what God has in store for us, what His message, what His plan is for us. Well, this is by the Bhagavad Purana. I know these are heavy words, and someone would be like, wow, this guy's a jerk. No, I'm just reading the scripture. This is what the scripture says. But we don't want to do useless things. Has everyone ever done like a project, and they did so many things. Well, I'm going to try it like this, and I try it like this, and then someone like Tanmay, my wife's saying it's time to end. Someone like Tanmay knows how to do it, and he just does it for you in like 2 seconds, and you're like, oh my God, I just wasted my time doing that. I should have just asked this guy. So like this is we should find spiritual guidance and go for it, or else we may waste our time for a long time, in many lifetimes. So anyway, I'm going to skip the last ones. I think I gave enough. I'm sorry I spoke so long, actually. But I think we're going to do Arati now. Is that the case? Oh, yes, we're going to do... Yes, we'll do Nrsimha prayers, and then we'll end with the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and then we'll have Prasad.
And we can stand for them.
Yes, and stand so you get to stretch your legs.
Yes.
Okay. So maybe, thank you, joined online.